Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Ms. Solomon, try it again. I want to make sure I can hear you well.
All right, can you hear me?
I can. Just if you got a little bit more volume, I'll take it.
Okay, what about now?
Very good. Thanks.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Commissioner Presley. If you have a little bit more volume, I'll take it.
Right, I'm trying to get it worked out.
Okay. Ooh.
Why it's so hard to get on my computer? Whatever. There it is.
Serena Center Court coverage on Tennis Channel, Brett Haber, Paul Anacombe, Drew Prakash, Trotch, 5 volts.
How you doing, Commissioner Miller?
Hey, Commissioner Presley, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Just trying to get my dog to go to do her thing, but she's not doing it. But yeah.
Too cold for her to go outside, huh?
You have no idea what these challenges have been these past couple of days.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, my brother gave me this puppy, but I won't hold our time talking about Ginger. Come on, get down, go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. Bathroom. Go to the bathroom. Whatever.
All right, hello everyone. 1, 2, 3. I just saw a message from Commissioner Lovett about a link. So Ms. Solomon, if you're on, if you could send Commissioner Lovett another link, that would be great.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I'm working on that right now.
Okay. Let me just let her know. All right. She's saying that she has the meeting. She says she needs a code. She has the link. Okay.
I do not believe I have a meeting code on here, or
Yeah.
maybe she needs the webinar ID.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You can just go to the bottom and say, join from your browser.
Let's see. Look, you send me the link. Information this email address. See this. And okay. That should work.
Miss Alexander, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Good, good. I missed that face last month.
I
That
missed-
smile.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Glad to have you back. Just wanted to say that if we get to a situation where there's a bad connection, I just wanted to be able to get a sign from you. And I know you had your video up, but we haven't started the meeting yet, but just wanted to say that and just say welcome back, okay?
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We've got enough commissioners for a quorum, and it looks like our applicants are present. It's like Attorney Wiggins is here and Director Smith is here. Looks like the Planning and Community Development team is here. Okay, there's Commissioner Lovett. All right. So it is 4 minutes beyond the hour. So at this time, I am going to officially call our regularly scheduled November meeting to order. Staff, would you please sound roll call to establish a quorum?
Commissioner Lovett,
Maybe she's getting her audio together.
okay, I'll come back. Commissioner Presley,
Hear me now?
Present.
Can you hear me?
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And that was Commissioner Lovett for the record. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lovett.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner Fan. Mr. Chair, are you here?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mark Fields,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner McKnight,
Just 1 second. Commissioner McKnight, you were just called. Could you say present, please?
thank you.
Okay. And Ms.
Commissioner-
Sullivan, I'm sorry, go ahead. You can complete roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Bryant,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner Joseph Fields,
Yeah.
thank you. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Solomon, if you would please send an email to Commissioner McKnight. I'm going to leave her on audio so that she can be privy to the meeting and our goings on until she receives the link. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, in the absence of a prayer, this body recognizes a moment of silence. So if you would please join me in a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Commissioners, you should have received your October 20th, 2022 meeting minutes. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Miller.
make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Okay, and that's the minutes for October 20th, 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Lovett, that this body approves our October 20th, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor, sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The meeting minutes for October 20th, 2022 are approved. Our next item on the agenda is to adopt our agenda as presented this evening. Commissioners, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt our agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as printed.
Is there a
Second.
second? It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Miller, that we adopt the agenda as presented this evening. All in favor, sound aye.
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 All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. Our meeting agenda has been adopted. There is no old business for this evening. We do, however, have two items under new business, and those are cases number 2022Rs and Robert Z as in zebra -01-01-10 and 2022U as an umbrella -001-09. Both of these agenda items will require a public hearing. And so at this time, staff, would you please sound the caption for our first new case?
Absolutely, Chairman Atkins. In reference to item number 1, case number 2022RZ-001-10, the applicant, City of East Point, the location, properties located at 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road. This is a city-initiated rezoning of 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road. The rezoning is from I-1 Light Industrial to RL Residential Limited. Case type is a rezoning.
Thank you so very much, Director Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned, both of our cases will require a public hearing this evening. At this time, I'll read our rules for public hearings, and then I'll entertain a motion to open a public hearing for this agenda item. Public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission shall be conducted in accordance with Section 10-2219 of the East Point Zoning Code of Development Regulations. Persons both favoring and opposing the proposed case will be provided an opportunity to address the commission. The applicant or the zoning for the zoning case or the applicant's designated representative, if any, will be entitled to speak first, followed by other speakers in favor of the proposal for a total of 15 minutes. Those who oppose the proposed zoning case will then be permitted to speak for a total of 15 minutes. By majority vote, the commission may increase the total time of speakers, provided that each side is given the same amount of time. If there is more than one speaker for a side, the chair or the presiding officer may limit the time allotted to each individual speaker other than the zoning applicant. The zoning applicant may reserve a portion of his or her allotted time for rebuttal. Speakers must adhere to the rules of decorum. Prior to speaking, each speaker shall identify him or herself and state his or her current address. Each speaker shall speak only to the merits of the proposed zoning ordinance under consideration, shall address remarks only to the commission, and shall refrain from making personal attacks on any other speaker. The presiding officer may refuse the speaker the right to continue if, after first being cautioned, the speaker continues to violate the rules of decorum. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard our rules for public hearing. Commissioners, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 2022R and Robert Z as in zebra -001-10.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Miller.
for case number 2022RZ-001-10, I make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Presley. Is that correct? Or is that Commissioner Bryant?
Possibly Brian, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Bryant, that we open the public hearing for case number 2022R as in Robert Z as in zebra -001-10. All in favor, sound aye.
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 All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. The applicant is the City of East Point. So Director Smith, you and or your team have the floor.
Thank you. In reference to case number 2022 RZ-001-10, this property is a reversion or rezoning. The property is located at 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road. The applicant is the city of East Point, and it is a city-initiated reversion. The property is currently zoned I-1, which is our light industrial district, and the request is for a city-initiated rezoning of 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road from I-1 light industrial to RL residential limited. The history of this case is these two properties were approved for rezoning on July 6, 2021. They were rezoned from residential limited to I-1 light industrial. And they were known under the case number 2021 RZ-002-03. There were 8 conditions of approval. I'll go through the conditions for the record. The first condition was uses will be restricted to the following uses. These are the list of uses that were approved under this rezoning: data center, restaurant, office, business professional, fitness center, education, cultural facilities, artisan workshop, and animal hospital / grooming shop. The second condition was to utilize shared parking with contiguous businesses. The third condition was implement use of green best practices where practical that promote the reduction of the rate of stormwater runoff. The fourth condition is to implement dark sky downcast lighting fixtures. The fifth condition was all refuge areas must be screened from view from public and the right of way. And number 6, any code mandated landscape strips must contain a non-invasive plant species, excuse me. Condition number 7 of this rezoning was minimum of 40% of building walls that face public street must be composed of at least one of the following building materials: face brick, stone, glass, terrazzo, poured in concrete slabs, or tilt-up concrete construction. If poured in place, tilt-up concrete construction is used, then such concrete must contain at least one of the method of architectural articulation, such as a change in color tone, wall accents, or impressions of lines into the concrete. Condition number 8, which is why we're here this evening. If a building permit is not pulled for development of the data center per the April 2nd, 2021 application submission within a year of approval, then council has the authority to revert property back to residential limited, which is our RL zoning district category. That is the reason why we are here this evening, to revert the property back due to condition number 8 not being adhered to. And as of this date, while there is a building permit in, the building permit fees have yet to be paid. We are hoping to continue to work with Microsoft to resolve the issue that has arisen initially when the project came through, which is the Microsoft data center project. When this project came through, it was presented through a concept with one data center building. However, since that time, there have been 3 data centers presented to us along with a substation. And with that, we've come to an issue with the substation being on site, and we are going through this process. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work through and resolve issues with Microsoft. And I also wanted to state for the record that there will be another community input meeting over the next couple of weeks. Staff will be in contact with the community to let them know when that meeting is happening. But moving forward through this process, to comply with the condition number 8, we're going through the reversion process to adhere to that ordinance. This is giving a little bit of background on the intent of this rezoning of these two properties that we're speaking of this evening. Properties located at 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road. Based on the intent letter that was submitted with this rezoning application, the proposed rezoning at that time was to allow for an opportunity for more creative and appropriately take into account topography and scale to design an industrial use, as well as to remove a potentially adverse residential environment. The intent letter went on at the time of this rezoning to say that the rezoning would allow for a more efficient and creative and appropriate use of the entire area for an attractive and well-buffered industrial use, as opposed to maintaining the two relatively small residential tracts surrounding by a much larger and more intense use allowed in the industrial zoning district. This is a site plan of the two parcels that we're speaking of this evening. This is 4155, the smaller piece. This larger piece here, which is about 6 acres, 5.76 plus or minus acres, is the property located at 4165 Ben Hill Road. This slide shows the zoning as industrial, and it's this smaller square here along with the larger piece that are before you this evening. This is an excerpt from our future land use map showing that these areas, both parcels, are for the future growth of growing residential. The future land use map designation is growing residential for both parcels. Staff has a recommendation. Our recommendation is for approval to revert the properties of 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road from I-1 light industrial to RL limited residential with the following conditions. The first condition, minimum setback of all utility structures, electrical substation from residential shall be 500 feet. Condition number 2, an opaque decorative fence to include a planted landscape strip along the fencing. The fence shall limit any visibility from the street of any utility structure. The fourth condition, shown as condition D, a noise study shall be submitted to the Planning and Community Development Department for review.
Okay, so we're not yet at recommendations. We need to hear if there are any other proponents, and then I'll ask for the staff recommendation, Director Smith. So we can hold off on this until we get to that.
Will do.
If you're done with your presentation, I'm going to then ask for other proponents.
Staff's presentation is complete.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning matter? Any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning matter?
Chairman Atkins, we have 5 attendees,
Okay,
and if you allow me, I'll go down the list.
please, thank you.
Thank you. The first attendee that I see is last 4 digits of the extension is 9819. I believe that may be one of our planning commissioners. However, I'm going to unmute you.
Yes, I believe that is Commissioner Bryant, and Commissioner Bryant can confirm that that is him at 9819, last 4 digits.
Commissioner Bryant, is that you?
He's on mute.
Okay.
Actually, I believe that's me. I have another phone
Okay.
and don't know the number, Commissioner. Sorry, I rarely use this phone.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
I'm
me.
gonna move on to the next attendee. I see Carrie Ziegler. Carrie Ziegler, do you have any comments this time?
To be honest, I'm kind of conflicted over this piece of property. And I think this is for proponents. So I don't know. There's never like a kind of either or. So I mean, yeah, I think that that the recommendations may be appropriate, but I'm just concerned about the repercussions about everything. And I don't think that has really been discussed. I did join a little late, so I may have missed that part. But yeah, anyway, those are my comments for right now.
Ms. Ziegler, would you please state your first and last name and your current address as
Oh.
in compliance with our public hearing rules?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. My name is Carrie Ziegler. I live at 947 Parkside Terrace.
All right, thank you so very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other proponents? Director Smith, would you like to call the next digits?
Yes. The next attendee is Kim Doherty. I am unmuting you now.
Thank you. This is Kim Doherty. Yes, and I have no comment about this particular case. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Doherty.
Thank you.
Can we move to the next?
Thank you. The next attendee is Myron Cook, I believe, Councilman Cook.
Councilman Cook, would you like to speak in favor of this zoning matter?
I'm holding my comments.
Okay, are you waiting to speak? Are you waiting to speak in
no.
opposition to?
No, I'm just observing.
Oh,
sorry.
okay. All right, thank you so much. Okay, Director Smith, you may go to the next speaker.
The next attendee is Sheila Diedrichson.
I think that's Stephanie Diedrichson. I think that she's the
Sheila?
applicant. I'm sorry.
Okay, she is, and I'm going to promote her to the panelists. Those are all of our attendees, Chairman
Okay.
Atkins.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak against the zoning matter? Is there any here to speak in opposition to the zoning matter? Hearing none and seeing none, commissioners, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Joseph Fields, that we close the public hearing for case number 2022 R as in Robert, Z as in zebra -001-10. All in favor, sound
Chairman
aye.
Atkins,
Yes.
should I go down the list? I know it's just two people.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay,
Just to make sure that we've covered those grounds.
correct, sir. Carrie Ziegler, would you like to speak in opposition?
My name is Carrie Ziegler. I live at 947 Parkside Terrace. Just kind of what I was saying before, that I am a little worried about the repercussions of rezoning this back to what originally was. Mainly because, obviously I feel like we already had like this kind of contract with the particular applicant here. But also, limiting it to residential. I'm not really sure what else we would do with the property. I do really believe that we need to have more of a buffer, because I know there are a lot of residents that were complaining about a whole different things about this property with the substation. And to be honest, I'm not exactly certain where the substation was going to be, if it was going to be on these two parcels or where that was supposed to be placed. I know that it was supposed to be placed really close to Ben Hill Road, and that's what it says on the bottom there. But anywho, yeah, I'm just a little concerned about the repercussions of actually doing something like this kind of after the fact. But yeah, those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler. Any other opposition? If you would like to call any others, Director Smith, please do so at this time.
Yes. The next attendee is Kim Doherty.
Ms. Doherty, would you like to speak in opposition to this zoning matter?
No, I have no comment at this point.
Okay, thank you so very much. If there are no other speakers to speak in opposition to this, we've had a motion by Commissioner Miller, a second by Commissioner Joseph Fields, that we close the public hearing for 2022 hours and Robert Z as in 0-001-10. All in favor, sound aye.
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 All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, please sound your recommendation.
Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval to revert the property of 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road from I-1 Light Industrial to RL Residential Limited with the following conditions. The first condition, minimum setback of all utility structures, electrical substation from a residential structure shall be 500 feet. The second condition, opaque decorative fence to include a planted landscape strip along the fencing. Condition number 3, the fence shall limit any visibility from the street of any utility structure. And the last condition shown as condition number D, or letter D, a noise study should be submitted to the Planning and Community Development Department for review.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, we've heard from the applicant, which is the city of East Point. We've also heard from speakers to speak in favor and opposed to this zoning matter. At this time, commissioners, I will entertain a motion.
I'm sorry, I have some questions that I think we had discussed to talk in the executive session.
Right. And so Commissioner McKnight, we can definitely get into those questions. Before we do that, we will have to have a motion and a second to open up any discussion on the matter. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure, motion to defer.
Motion, say that again, please.
To defer.
Okay, is a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner McKnight to defer. That motion has been seconded by Commissioner Miller. At this time, I'll take any comments, questions, or concerns. And commissioners, if you would please do me a favor and use the raise hand function. That way I can recognize you. The system will sort of line you up and I'll call you in that order. It looks like Commissioner Joseph Fields has his hand raised first. So Commissioner Fields, if you would lower your hand, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering the effect of knowing that this is being done because the company Microsoft didn't quite develop or live up to their standards at the time. Are they still thinking about using this property for the substate, for their chip, for whatever their purpose was? Are they still thinking about doing that? What is the holdup on this particular venture, whether it goes through or not? I mean, so to defer it, the question is, defer it for what purpose? That's what I like to know. Why should we defer it? If they're not going to do it, then we should, I believe we should revert it back to what it was, unless there's a hope or some sort of indication that the purpose for which it was rezoned in the first place is going to continue after some sort of resolution to whatever the problem might be. So I'd like to know that first.
And Commissioner Fields, is that question of staff?
No, I think that's a question of Ms. McKnight. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
The staff
I mean,
would know that.
sure. I mean,
Go
oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Commissioner McKnight. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner McKnight.
Okay, I could respond to my reasoning. I guess staff could also, my request.
Yes.
And then I guess staff can chime in. So Commissioner Fields, that's part of the reason why I made the motion to defer. So some of the questions, so many people weren't in attendance for the work session, and there were a lot of things that actually came up. And I just thought it would be really good for everyone to have a better understanding and be clear on the reason why we would be making the reversion for this particular property. And also the repercussions, if any, or risks that we may have doing this from the city perspective. So those are my reasonings for the deferral, so that we can all actually get our questions answered and be clear on it before actually making a decision. Part of the reason is similarly to what you just said about Microsoft. The land is already cleared. So my biggest thing is I don't want to put the city in risk. And I just wanted to have our attorney to have a conversation with us so we can be clear on our decision. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything further you'd like to know about that, Commissioner Fields? About Commissioner McKnight's rationale for moving to defer? You're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry, yes, that clears up her reason for wanting to defer. I guess I'd like to know from Director, what's the state of the negotiation with Microsoft, and whether it looks like they're gonna continue with their application to possess this property.
Thank you, Commissioner. The status is, as far as I know, is they submitted for land disturbance and they have received permission to do land disturbance. They have submitted for building permits. However, they have not purchased or paid for the plans that they submitted, because it is my understanding that they are working or reworking to see if there is a possibility to move the substation from these two particular parcels that they appeared to be on. They were showed on during a community meeting. Some concerns were brought up by the community, and it is my understanding that the city is working with Microsoft to mitigate those concerns of the community. And we're being very, very hopeful that some mitigation measures and some resolution can be found prior to this even making it to the city council. However, because of the condition number 8 of the original rezoning has yet to be met, we really had no choice but to bring this application forward.
So if it's resolved in favor of us, I guess, and Microsoft, then we'll have to rezone it again. Is that correct? Is that reasonable?
Well, this body is a recommending body. It's Planning Commission is a recommending body. So if this board makes a recommendation for approval to revert, that's exactly what it would be, as a recommendation to the council to revert it back. The properties would not revert back to the RL zoning district until after council has taken a final action.
Okay, thank you very much. But I would think any recommendation coming from us should be in line with well, we don't know at this time. They may resolve it and say, okay, go ahead and possess the land the way it was originally agreed upon. And in that case, we'd have to say, don't approve the recommendation for reversion. I mean, that's the way it seems to me. If we know it's not up to us for the final decision. We're just gonna make a recommendation, but I like my recommendation, you know, to be something that's gonna be feasible in the future regarding this particular parcel. Because it seems to me if they're gonna come in and do that, hopefully it'll increase our tax base, things like that. So I would think that the city may really want to have them there. So given that particular perspective, I would disagree with approving the reversion. So that's why I'm asking. I'd like to, if we're gonna, well, deferral, okay, so it's like a temporizing move to defer. And okay, that sounds reasonable. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker will be Commissioner Miller, and then we'll hear from Commissioner Mark Fields, and then Commissioner Lovett in that order. So Commissioner Miller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize that I was not able to be at the work session last week, so I could have been more privy to the more enhanced conversation about this. Originally, I had a two-part question, one of them being my question at first being, is the Microsoft deal dead? And sounds like from what Director Smith is saying that it's not dead, but there's a potential to move it to another parcel, but that hasn't officially happened yet. So that answered my question for that. And I'm sorry I'm being long-winded. But then my second part is that the following conditions seems like it's counter. Seems like if we're reverting back to RL, I mean, these following conditions: an opaque decorative fence along the fencing. The fence shall limit any visibility from the street of any utility structure. A noise study has been submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department. That sounds like you're moving it from R1 to the I1. I mean, from the RL to the I1. It seems to me like this is backwards. And that's my question.
Okay, and so Commissioner Miller, thank you so very much for that, because obviously, you know, the way that I usually operate, I allow all the commissioners to speak and then I sort of come at the end. So yes, this is very confusing, and it is confusing. We spent a tremendous amount of time discussing this at work session, and I'm feeling like there's something that is not being shared. Commissioners, those that were not able to make the work session, the challenge with this is that it seems logical that a substation would be an allowed permitted use within I1. However, it is not. The substation is an allowed use in RL. So that baffles me, and I think that it baffles a lot of the other commissioners. And so there's this whole conversation that is happening because I feel like there's something that it's almost like when Commissioner Fields was saying, Joseph Fields was talking about, well, is the deal dead? Well, this particular reversion is to support the deal. Because if we did not revert this, then a substation could not be there. And I'm not really sure why that's not being said. So in order for the deal to go through, the reversion would have to happen. Because at this time, according to our zoning, I1 does not allow a substation. It's not an allowed use. But it is an allowed use in RL. So it's confusing to me that we're not having that conversation about this. So, I think it's throwing me off, and it sounds like it's throwing other commissioners off. And so this isn't a penalization of Microsoft or any other company that would need a substation. This is assistance to make that happen. And if that's what we're doing, I think that we should be very clear and very forthright and very transparent and say that that's what we're doing. say that our current zoning law under I-1 does not allow a substation. However, a substation is allowed in RL, and it looks like this deal is moving forward. An application is in, the fees are not yet paid, and we'd like to be able to help facilitate this. And so a reversion would be necessary for those reasons. I hope I answered your question, Commissioner Miller.
No, it's actually made that more confusing.
Okay. So do you have other questions?
So we are reverting it to residential limited to push the deal along further so that they build a residential electric substation and then we convert it back to I-1? I'm confused.
No, it's not going to be reverted back to I-1. I-1 does not allow a substation, period. So that's why it needs to be rezoned to RL, because in RL, a substation is allowed.
But
It
if
seems
it's
weird
RL, if it's residential limited, how is Microsoft coming in there?
because it's going to be a substation on the parcels that are the subject parcels, 4165 and 4155 Ben Hill Road. Those are the subject properties for the substation. Because I feel like you may be thinking that those are the parcels for the data center as well, which is not the case.
Which is probably one of the reasons that I should have been at the work session. I'm sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. We spent probably close to an hour or more talking about this because there was so much confusion around this.
Makes sense to me now. Thank you.
Okay. If you could please lower your hand, we're going to move to Commissioner Mark Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you actually touched on a couple of the questions that I had as it relates to the substation. What I wanted to get a little more clear on during the work session, there was a discussion about there's a possibility that the substation may not be on this property, on these two pieces of property that we're discussing. So if that is true, then is it a possibility that we're now going to have to go and rezone something else to RL in order to, if they choose not to put that substation on these properties? In essence, having two substations.
Well, I think that in that situation, it would really be a hypothetical because it could be another parcel that is already zoned RL and would already allow, or it could be a property that is already in a zoning classification that would allow a substation as a use within that zoning classification. But this is conjecture on my part. And so if staff would like to speak up, because this is a staff application, a city initiated rezoning, please do so. I almost feel like logically, one would think that a substation would be an allowed use in an industrial 1 zoning, which is a light zoning classification, right? For whatever reason, in our zoning code, it is not allowed. And so the property was rezoned from residential limited to I-1. You may have to mute to I-1. And then it was discovered that under I-1, a substation is not an allowed use. And so if it's not going to go on either of these parcels, if the substation is going to go on another parcel, it would need to be a zoning classification that would allow it as a use, or it would have to come before this body for the rezoning as a part of the process. Okay. Commissioner Lovett, you're next. If you could then lower your hand, please.
Mr. Chair, I just have one question. Even if we rezone it, is that going to be the 500 feet setback will they be within the boundaries of that, or? That's one line of questioning that I have. And then the other one is, I am looking at just narrowing getting back to the narrow scope of what we're really voting on. And that is, this has been out there since April 2nd, 2021. And it's by choice that you can yank it back and revert the zoning. So that's really what we're voting on. It doesn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, this does not preclude Microsoft from presenting, which is what we haven't had, to be honest with you. When someone said something to the effect that we're being asked really to vote on something that I think there's a shroud of secrecy here that we're not privy to, and it's confusing, and it's unfair to really ask us to view something we don't have the full picture. I still say, where are the plans for this? Usually we see plans. Usually you can look at, you can look at dimensions, but we don't have, there's so much that we're missing here. And it doesn't sound like we're going to get it. So how does that work?
And Commissioner Levitt, yes. So in most instances that we have before us, we would have, I believe, those plans. In this instance, and I'm not making a defense, Microsoft isn't the applicant, the city is the applicant. And so even with, I think that you bring up a very interesting point. Director Smith, can we go back to the slide that is, it's sort of a topo, it actually shows the parcels and the outline of the subject parcels. I think that there's another, okay. So with this, what is the frontage? Where the residential, because this is all surrounded by industrial. This is all surrounded by I-1, correct?
That is correct.
And what is across the street?
Across the street is,
I can't read that.
it says BPC.
BPC.
But I don't know what that is. They're residential properties across the street. Let me pull up our zoning map so we can look a little closer and get the actual zoning. So that must be BP. Our business park zoning district.
Okay.
Hold on, let me. This is our business park zoning district, and apparently there are conditions. So that's what the BPC, the C would be for the conditions that are placed on this particular piece of property. So it's zoned a business park, right directly across the street.
Yes, okay. So the condition of the 500 feet would then, because it's industrial, it's light industrial on the north, the south, and the west of these parcels, correct? And then,
yes.
And then on the east, it is business park. And so it is the southeast where the residential is, correct?
Yes, all of these parcels here are all residential. This parcel here and going down, it's all residential.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Lovett, you still have your hand raised. Was that your only question, or has it been adequately? Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm putting it down.
Okay, no worries. Commissioner Presley and then Commissioner McKnight.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. I have one question. What's the structure of this substation as far as the square feet? I see something about 500 feet but was that from the BCP or is that 500 square feet of their substation? I'm just wondering, like, how large is this facility that would be built? And again, like Commissioner Lovett stated, there's no plans or anything. Like, it's a substation, but I mean, it could be the size of a closet or a bathroom, or could it be the size of a 2-story mid-rise? I'm not really sure.
We don't have the particular size of the substation. We were
Right.
present at the 2 community meetings. I mean, it looked to be a sizable substation. It looked to be sizable. I don't have the exact measurements. Those were not provided. We do not have building permits in our hands right now because they're looking to move it off site or off of they're looking to move it in some particular way. But because we do not have building permits submitted to our office to review, I mean, we really don't know. And we're not trying to be a secretive or untransparent or anything of that matter. The intent of this petition is simply to adhere to the ordinance that was approved by council back in 2021, which stated that if a building permit was not pulled within a year of the project being rezoned, these parcels being rezoned, then a reversion could occur. So that's what we're doing this evening. We're not intentionally trying to leave out any specific information. It is peculiar. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was just asking questions because one of the proponents or opponents had inquiries about possibly changing the code, the area with this structure. So I was just asking questions. Is it more like a small?
And we appreciate them.
Right, just a small unit like a AT&T, like one of those closets that's right there on Cleveland Avenue, or is this like a large facility? I just didn't know, that's all.
All right.
That's no further questions for me. Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Presley. If you would please lower your hand. We would then go to Commissioner McKnight.
Hey, thank you so much. My question, actually, I just wanted to be clear on something. Could you pull up that future land map?
Yes.
So currently on this, everything that is in the deeper color red, that's also that BP business park, right?
Yes.
And then everything that's in that lighter color, that's all, what is that saying? Industrial?
Growing residential, the greenish color. Yellow.
The green is growing residential?
Yes, for our future land use map designation.
And then Microsoft currently, but right now is all zoned industrial. That
Industrial.
The green
industrial is this pinkish color.
Okay. And so currently everything not everything in the green is industrial, but the part that Microsoft have now is where that little blue dot is, that's industrial. And then go ahead.
Do you mean zoned industrial?
Uh-huh.
Yes, this where the blue dot is, that's the larger, that's the 4165 parcel, which is currently zoned industrial. This smaller piece, which is 4155, is zoned I1 currently, which is what we're talking about this evening. These pieces to the north and then to the east here, this is where the larger Microsoft data center is actually proposed to go, the data center, or to go in these parcels here. They acquired the two parcels that we're speaking of this evening as part of their project.
Gotcha. So that,
Yes, and yes,
okay, so right where the cursor is right now, is that where the houses start? That's already resident,
so, yes.
right there.
Yes, yes, right here. Right here.
Okay. So, okay. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner McKnight. If you could please lower your hand. And we're then going to go to Commissioner Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This can be a very quick question. I do not plan to prolong this, but this is for Director Smith. Has there been an environmental study done on this project, the whole project, the impact on the residents?
To my knowledge, I don't believe that they've done an impact study, specifically because this piece, this larger piece, which is probably totaling over 100 acres, it already had the entitlements of industrial I-1. It was already zoned I-1. But I think that we're all aware, we talked about it. This body looked at the industrial zonings a couple of years ago, where we are all part of trying to find out what type of zonings would support the buffering between residential properties and industrial properties, because it's been an issue for many, many years, not just in East Point, but in many places, in many communities where you have residential abutting industrial. That's not the most ideal situation, because those two type of uses are not generally compatible. They're generally not. So when this body, as well as council, adopted the mixed use industrial commercial and a specific warehouse industrial district to put warehouses where they need to go, I think that was a step in the right direction. I mean, this is not an ideal situation to have residential abutting industrial. It's just not ideal. It's not compatible. But unfortunately, these maps turned up in that fashion. But I think some of it is from the city being initiated as an industrialized city back in the early 1900s and 1800s. So it's something that we're trying to work through and come to a situation where we can mitigate any type of negative impacts that such industrial could potentially have on residential. But where these most of the data center is going, it's already zoned. It already has its entitlements.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Fields, Joseph. Commissioner Fields, you're on mute.
Sorry, who owns this piece of property?
Currently, who owns it is Microsoft owns the property.
Okay, they own the property. And when they owned the property, it was a light industrial when they owned it originally?
Are you speaking of the properties that are before us for rezoning? Or are you speaking of the larger tract that's over 100
acres? I'm speaking of the
acres?
part that we're in session about.
So when these properties were rezoned or petitioned to be rezoned, Microsoft did not own them at that time.
But they own this particular piece now for the purpose of putting in a data center and a substation. But now they're not gonna put it there? They decided.
They're
not
looking
to
at,
use
they're,
it?
they're currently looking at alternative places to locate it. And because we don't have building permit applications, we don't know where the data center is. We don't know where the substation is going to go specifically.
So they could actually abandon this particular project, piece of property altogether and just don't do anything there. And so the question tonight is, do we revert it back to what it originally was? Is
Well,
that
that's on the
question?
agenda. That is what's on the agenda. That's what this action is to do, is to revert it back to the RL.
And that would assume that Microsoft has abandoned the project. You know, we go back.
Yes. No, sir, Commissioner Fields, as I just mentioned a little earlier, this is, so this is a little difficult for me because I think that the way that this is being presented is probably confusing.
Yes.
Microsoft is not, this is like Microsoft is moving forward with the project, Commissioner Fields. In I-1, a substation is not allowed. So that is what the property has been rezoned to, I-1, okay? So the application before us tonight is to revert that zoning back to RL. A substation is allowed in RL, which would allow Microsoft to put a substation there. If we left the zoning at I-1, Microsoft would not be able to put a substation there.
Okay, so the mistake was made in the beginning.
So I appreciate your word choice. I think that it was I think that it was a mistake. It was probably a very logical mistake that Microsoft may have thought that we need to rezone these parcels to I-1, which will be consistent with the other parcels to the north and the west that they own, thinking that a substation could go there. Down the road, they realized that a substation could not go there, even as an ancillary use. I do disagree with Director Smith's assertion that this is before us tonight because of Condition 8. Condition 8 does not say that it had to revert. Condition 8 says the city has the authority to revert. It does not say that we had to. So I think that indeed, and this is my assumption, Commissioner Fields, that it was a mistake to rezone it I-1. It needs to go to a zoning classification that will allow a substation so that Microsoft can do what it proposes to do there. And RL, what it was previously rezoned, allows for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
the answer.
Attorney Wiggins?
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. I just wanted it to be clear, if it wasn't, that the property where the data center is going is not before you tonight. I think I heard some conversations about them abandoning the entire project. And just know that the data center is on a completely different property that is not subject to this matter that's before you.
Okay, thank you for that information, Attorney Wiggins. Commissioner Fields, your hand is still raised, but I don't think you lowered it. And I'd like to move to Commissioner Miller if your question has been answered. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Miller, the floor is yours.
So I may be spitballing here, but could we do a text amendment that would add a condition to I-1 that would add potentially the addition of the capacity to have an electric substation? Wouldn't that be a way to make this work?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Miller, I missed that. For my benefit, could you please ask that question again? My
Sure, I can do
apologies.
that. I said, my question was, would it be potentially something that could be done if staff would do a text amendment to I-1 to add the capacity and the potential to have an electric substation in an area or a parcel that is zoned I-1? Is that something that could be doable, or am I just off in left field somewhere? And that's a question for you, Director Smith.
I believe that we can craft a condition to include a text amendment that would specifically allow for a substation to be somewhere on the property that adheres to residential distance requirements that would help mitigate concerns of the community, the residents that are in that vicinity. And I would defer to Attorney Wiggins. That didn't answer your question?
No, I'm talking about adding a text amendment to add the usage, the electrical substation usage to the I-1 classification.
Yes, I heard you correctly. I was agreeing with you that a condition could be placed. Or I guess it may be a separate text amendment. I would have to defer to Attorney Wiggins on how that would work or how that could be crafted, but I am following you and I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
so
agree as well.
I want to recognize Attorney Wiggins, and just so that I'm clear, Commissioner Miller, you're not asking for a condition, you're asking for an amendment to the I-1 zoning classification, just as we do text amendments for other zoning classifications, right? So
that was my thought, yes.
It would not just be germane to this particular parcel, these parcels, 4165 and 4155, but it would be for any of the I-1 zoning classifications, correct?
And it might in the future circumvent this error being a problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We did talk about this, not doing a text amendment, which I agree with. We talked about the fact that we are updating our zoning code. As I mentioned sort of in the beginning of this, it sort of baffles me that we would not have a substation as an allowable use in a light industrial zoning classification, but we would have it in a residential limited classification. So I think that that was an oversight. And so that was something that we discussed and noted in our work session, that for the rewrite, that it should be added to that zoning classification. But I think that it was omitted in error, actually, because I can't imagine that it wouldn't be allowed in light industrial, but is allowed in residential limited. Commissioner Wiggins, I'm going to give you the floor to respond to Commissioner Miller's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The answer to your question, Commissioner Miller, is yes. You can do a text amendment, but it would require a new petition, staff initiated, a public hearing, a work session. You have to go through a whole new process because that's not what's before you, but it could be done.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay, any other questions, commissioners? Okay. And I think that I've said enough in between. I'm sorry.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. You want to try to think about it? Because if it's really important, then I would want the question to be asked so that it's something that we can consider before we dispose of this motion.
What I was going to ask, it was for Attorney Wiggins, which is, could the Planning Commission make a recommendation for a text amendment to allow a substation within the I-1 zoning district under certain conditions, perhaps having distance requirements from residential. Could that be a recommendation from the Planning Commission? Even though it's not specifically, well, yes, it would be, because these parcels are zoned I-1. So yes, could that be a recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yes, you have the floor.
You can make that recommendation, but I don't believe it has any impact. If you wanted to say these parcels will remain I-1 with the condition that a substation can go there with some distance requirements, you have now circumvented the text amendment requirement because it's not a use allowed in I-1. So it wouldn't be a reversion. It's almost like a special use permit to do something that's not allowed. Unfortunately, we don't have that type of ordinance. It's not open like that. We have specific things that can be allowed via special use permit, administrative use permit. And if it's not listed, it can't be done. So I would say, no, that would not have any impact and would not change the trajectory of this petition.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Wiggins. Commissioners, there's a motion before us. The motion, and Commissioner McKnight, can I please ask that we have for your motion a time specific? Your motion is to defer. Is that to our regularly scheduled December meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
That should be plenty of time. Mhm.
Okay, and there is a motion on the floor made by Commissioner McKnight that we defer this item to our regularly scheduled December meeting. That motion has been seconded by Commissioner Joseph Fields. Before I call the question, it seems
Oh,
that
seconded by Commissioner Miller.
Miller, okay, my apologies. That then is seconded by Commissioner Miller. So the motion is made to defer to our regularly scheduled December meeting and seconded by Commissioner Miller. Got my notes wrong. All right, before I call the question, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Lovett.
Mr. Chair, if it is appropriate, and please let me know if it is not. Thank you. Why would we defer this?
Well, that would then be a question of Commissioner McKnight because it's her motion. So Commissioner
for the benefit of deferring this so that I will have something to, I just need to know.
Okay. Commissioner McKnight, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. My original reasoning was to defer so that everyone could be clear on what we would actually be recommending on. Sounds like a lot of questions were answered already here. I still have just one pending thing, and that's just on the, really on the, well, actually it's two things. One is with us making this change, the city making the change versus the actual landowner, would we be able to avoid any risks that may come up? Although what was presented tonight is to actually help them, but since they didn't ask, I just wanted to make sure that we're good on that. And then the other thing is, with so much industrial already going on in that particular area, I'm just thinking, even if Microsoft abandoned the whole project, with the land already being clear for something to go there, let's just say they decide, oh, it's reverted, they want to go someplace else. Now we stuck with this empty lot of cleared land for what to happen. And if that future thing is, what would make most sense for the city is for it to just stay what it is, which is industrial, so that everything in that part of the land would make sense versus making that small area residential limited, and then just skipped over next to it, then you have industrial, which is what is already currently zoned for. You know, I just want, I wanted to be clear, and I just wanted to make sense. Because it's like Microsoft or not, I'm thinking about the future, like what will go there after the fact when we all are gone. So I just want to make sure everyone was clear on that, on their decision prior to. So that was the point of the deferral, really, for this discussion.
Okay. Commissioner McKnight, do you feel that due to the discussion, a lot of the questions were answered, and so there are a couple of things that we could do. If you would like for your motion to stand, we can go ahead and vote on the motion. The motion may pass, it may not pass. If the motion fails, then we can then entertain, I will then at that point entertain another motion, or you could withdraw your motion if you feel that the questions that you had have been answered. That would be your decision.
Well, the only, like I said, the question that I had was just our risk, and I don't think it's something that would be Attorney Wiggins would have to answer for us. You know, from the city, and not necessarily something that's public, but that was just my only question.
Okay, so you'd like for your motion to stand. The motion is to defer to our regularly scheduled December meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Miller. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, commissioners, the motion is to defer to our regularly scheduled December meeting. All in favor sound aye.
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 All opposed sound nay.
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 Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lovett,
Nay.
Commissioner Presley,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Fan, Commissioner Atkins.
I'll vote in the tie. I'm always last.
Thank you. Commissioner Mark Fields,
Nay.
Commissioner McKnight,
Aye.
Commissioner Bryant, Commissioner Joseph Fields,
Commissioner Fields, you're on mute. Please unmute.
Nay.
tie.
Okay, I did not hear Commissioner Bryant. Commissioner Bryant, are you still with us? Staff, could you see if Commissioner Bryant's phone is still with us?
He appears to be with us.
Is he on mute?
But he, oh, okay.
Nay.
He said
He said-
nay.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure for the record. Okay, motion fails. We've got 3 yeas and 4 nays. Commissioners, at this time, I'll entertain another motion.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation, Mr. Chair,
Okay, is there a second? Is that with staff's conditions, Commissioner Lovett?
with staff's condition.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Joseph Fields, that this body approves case number 2022R and Robert Zierson 0-001-10 with staff's conditions. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, I'm glad you pulled up the conditions because I would like to talk about the conditions a little. Thank you so much, Director Smith. Minimum setback, all utility structures from residential structures be 500 feet, opaque decorative fence to include a planted landscape strip along the fencing. The fence shall limit any visibility from the streets of any North Station. Okay, B, condition B. So the landscape strip, in my estimation, is not prescriptive enough because I don't want it to be a situation like we have on Sylvan Road. I don't want it to be an opaque fence without there being, the landscape strip. I think that we need to have some specificity around that. And so for me, ideally, I'd like for whatever that landscape strip is to be just as high as the fence. So a landscape strip could be some shrubs that are 2 feet tall, and you still can see a not so attractive fence, because even those opaque fences, like the one at the very beginning of Sylvan Road coming into the city, I believe that that is just across from the gas station, it is not attractive. And so because this is so close to residential structures, I think that we need to be a bit more prescriptive as it relates to the landscape strip. And so I would like for that to include a landscape strip that is 75% of it must be at least as high as the fence. Okay, and so Commissioner Lovett, will you accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yes, I will accept, Mr. Chair.
And Commissioner Joseph Fields, would your second still stand?
Okay, I just was wondering, who's responsible for making these
Commissioner
conditions?
Joseph Fields, does your second still stand?
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay, now you have the floor.
I was just wondering, with these conditions, does that mean the city is going to do these things to this particular piece of property?
No, sir. With the conditions, what happens is whoever's going to be built there, they're going to be bound to these conditions. The city is not proposing to build there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, there's a motion made by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Joseph Fields, that we approve this with the conditions as stated by staff and further amended. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor sound aye.
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 All opposed sound nay.
Aye. Sorry, aye.
No worries. All opposed sound nay.
Nay.
Okay. We have one nay. That was Commissioner Miller. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. One nay. Okay. The motion carries. We have one nay and the rest ayes. Okay. Our next agenda item is 2022 U as in umbrella -001-09. Staff, would you please sound the caption for this agenda item?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Ms. Alexander. I'm needing everybody to mute if they're not speaking. I got a lot of background.
Okay, thank you. If you're not speaking, please mute. Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Okay. Thank you. All right, staff, would you please sound the caption for our second case under new business?
Yes. In reference to case number 2, under new business, case number 2022U-001-09, the applicant is Stephanie Dickerson. The property is located at 1736 Neely Avenue. The applicant is seeking a special use permit to build a 520 square foot habitable accessory structure. The case type is a special use permit.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, this case also requires a public hearing. At this time, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Miller, that we open the public hearing for case number 2022 U as in umbrella -001-09. All in favor sound aye.
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 All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. Do we have our applicant, Ms. Diedrichsen, present this evening?
Hello, this is Heather Sharp. I'm here to speak for Stephanie.
Okay, Ms. Sharp, would you state your first and last name? And when you're speaking of Stephanie, we have a stenographer. Please give first and last names. We're not on a one first name basis, okay?
My name is Heather Sharp, and I'm here to speak for Stephanie Didrikson.
Okay, thank you so very much. Ms. Sharp, would you please state your current address?
The address is 1736 Neely Avenue, East Point. (30344).
Okay, thank you. And it looks like there are some visuals that are showing up on the screen. And if those are yours and you're ready to speak, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm here to speak for Ms. Dietrichson, who is looking to build a habitable accessory structure in her backyard for her mother to live in. The property, if you go to the next slide, the property is at 1736 Neely Avenue, and this is the front of the property. Stephanie plans to build a habitable accessory structure in keeping with the same style as her main structure. The next slide shows the survey. It is a double lot at 1736, and behind the lot, Stephanie's lot, is the future build site for Echo Homes, which I just, as a bit of information, which is a collection of small homes as well. The next slide shows where the habitable accessory structure will be built behind the existing primary structure that's labeled on the survey. We are looking to, the habitable accessory structure will include an open floor plan with a living room, kitchen, bedroom, and office, a bathroom, and a covered screen deck. And like I said, it is for Stephanie's mother to move in and live nearby, but keeping her independence in a separate structure. Stephanie's also looking to extend the existing driveway by 15 feet as set out in section 1020-2130 of the code. Her property is currently authorized for 2 parking spaces, and this extension will provide the 3 necessary by the regulations. Stephanie's also looking to remove a existing patio at the back behind her house, her existing house. It is dilapidated and falling apart, and we're looking to have that removed as well. And the last thing she's looking to do is to increase her existing deck on the existing house and extend the width only of her deck to measure a total of 234 square feet once extended. The next slide just shows the backyard. That's the existing deck on the back of the house that she would like extended, and the chair and the table is sitting on the existing pad that we'd like to get rid of. The next slide shows the proposed floor plan, which will include, like I said, the living room, kitchen, bedroom, office area, full bath, and a deck. Next are the proposed elevations to match the existing house in style and design. And finally, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. We actually don't do question and answer during the public hearing. We could get into that after a motion and a second has been made, but appreciate your presentation. Are there any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning application? Any other proponents here to speak in favor of the zoning application? Hearing none and seeing none, are there any opponents here to speak against this zoning application? Are there any opponents here to speak against the zoning application?
Chairman, may I go down the list of the 5 attendees?
Yes, please.
Thank you. See, Carrie Ziegler.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Ziegler. I live at 947 Parkside Terrace. And I don't have anything good or bad to say about it. I wish this applicant good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler.
Thank you. Kim Doherty.
Yeah, yes, Kim Doherty. And I think that it's a good idea for us to allow these types of structures. Sounds like it would help this family situation and it seems like a good plan. So would be in favor of it myself.
Thank you. The next attendee is Anna.
Anna, could you please unmute?
Okay. Moving on to the last attendee, Sarinthia Millage. Sarinthia Millage, do you have any comments?
Could you please unmute? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. And Director Smith, there is Sheila Didrikson. So you were correct because there's a Sheila and then there's a Stephanie Didrikson. So Sheila Didrikson has hand raised.
And this is Sheila Didrikson, and I'm the mother, and I look forward to moving into this structure.
Didrikson, could you also state your address? It's your first and last name and your address if you're going to make a comment.
Sheila Didrikson, I'm at 3397 Old Jonesboro Road in Hicksville.
Okay, thank you. And just to perfect the record, Ms. Daugherty, I think you made a comment and we did not get your address. So if you could please state your address as well for the record.
Thank you. Yes, 1508 Cambridge Avenue in College Park.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Didrikson, if you're complete with your comments, if you would please lower your hand. Thank you. Okay, if there are no other speakers for this case, hearing none and seeing none, commissioners, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing, Mr.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Miller, that we close the public hearing for case number 2022, U as in umbrella, -001-09. Staff, would you please have your recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, in reference to case number 2022U-001-09, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request to seek a use permit to build a 520 square foot habitable accessory structure.
Thank you. Commissioners, we've heard from the applicant's representative, Ms. Heather Sharp. We've also heard from persons speaking in favor of the zoning application. There were no dissenters for this. At this time, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Miller.
I make a motion that we recommend staff's approval of the applicant's request.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Presley, that this body recommends approval of case number 2022, U as in umbrella, -001-09, special use permit for 1736 Neely Avenue. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor sound aye.
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 All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This body recommends approval. This then takes us to announcements. Director Smith, do you have any announcements that's good for the body?
Happy Thanksgiving next Thursday.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will only say that as Director Smith has said, we do have a holiday that is before us, but we also have a few other things. I am encouraging all persons who are eligible to vote to please exercise your civic duty to go out and vote. Whoever the candidate of your choice is, I just ask that you please go out and participate in what we are calling a democracy. Voting is the cornerstone of a great democracy. So if we want to have that in this country, I ask that you please participate in the voting process. Early voting and the vote, I think, will take place on the 6th of December. I don't know the dates of early voting, but please do the diligent and necessary research to find out all those details. But please do participate in this part of our process for this country. With nothing else, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Lovett, that we adjourn our regularly scheduled meeting for the month of November. All in favor, sound aye.
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 All opposed, sound nay.
Aye.
All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This meeting is now adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience and your participation this evening. Everyone have a great
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everyone.
Be careful, stay safe.
Happy holidays, everyone.